Welcome to Inglorious Banters, episode 4. I don't know if we've got a title for this one.
No, not yet. We've got a few thrown around.
Excellent.
I guess we'll figure one out when we put it up for the title
We
on the
do.
episode at the end.
So it's episode 4. We do have just like a bank of backup cheesy titles that we use. And considering we're going to talk about the Colmar offensive quite a bit, maybe we'll go with Come On In the Waters Rhine,
Yep.
which is on the top of our run list for weeks and weeks now.
Yep.
It is great to be back. Mitch, how you doing?
Yeah, doing good. So yeah, getting some hobby done, which is nice. But
Excellent.
yeah, so living life.
Insanely busy outside of my hobby activities at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm just finding tons and tons of stuff to get distracted by. But nevertheless, a lot of hobby is happening.
There is, yeah. So both you and me both, a lot of the other guys as well in our little gaming group have been doing a lot, looking at a lot of new games, joining in with a lot of new games,
Yes.
which is very cool.
We've got quite a few new ones that we're looking at getting into. We have mentioned in the past that we're going to talk about a wide variety of games, but we're starting off with our bolt action focus because it's something that's Mitch and I are both very keen on.
So at the forefront of what we're doing at the moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So don't be surprised when there's a few episodes coming up down the line where we'll talk about some other game systems, especially things like War Master and the Old World.
Yep.
Very keen on getting some more games of Silver Bayonet.
Yes, very much so.
And we occasionally do some Infinity and Mordheim stuff as well. And we've got Fjord Serpents coming up.
You guys do have that, yeah.
They had an update on their Game Found stuff. Or Indiegogo was their campaign. And they were looking at around December for delivery times.
Just
so
in
we're
time
hoping
for Christmas.
Exactly. We're hoping for some very loot-heavy Christmas raids, and off of Viking we shall go.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of hobby. What's the most recent thing to hit your hobby table, Mitch?
I actually did a bit of painting on my Mordheim warband last night. So
Excellent.
I've when we get into the building the bulge part, we'll go through what we've been doing for our forces for the Germans and the Americans and the French. So for your French as well.
Very French.
So yeah, got some of my Mordheim out that I've had the warband built for ages. So finally decided to get some more paint on them because I had partially painted the zombies and put kind of like base coat of contrast on most things. But I decided to grab them out. I got the zombies finished off last night. Real basic paint job, but they look dirty like they're supposed to. I mean,
exactly.
Dirty scrub zombies that don't really do much except shamble forward.
They're just going to stack onto people and hold them in place while the vampire rips them to pieces.
Except Valentina, my vampire, she is not so good. Last game we played, she failed an initiative test and fell off a roof and impaled herself on something and died. So not so good.
She sounds like a true Von Carstein.
Yeah.
It's the D&D background for one of the vampires in that is they like fall off and get impaled.
Yeah.
Maybe she's just across a couple of different game systems.
Yeah. So yeah,
awesome.
So yeah, been working on some of that and eyeing off my Age of Sigmar Night Goblins to try and get them painted up for our 365 challenge.
Actually, yes, 365 challenge. We had some big events for Andrew and I both managed to get through to 365 on ours. I don't think we talked about that last time.
No, I think it was just coming up to the end of it, yeah.
And it was really close. Like Andrew was like 50 models behind and was like, I'm never going to beat Tim, don't worry. And then I was almost finished the model, but I had no time to photograph it. So it just kept taking ages for me to get around to like the final details. And Andrew kept chipping away and been like, another 10, another 30 models. So we both managed to get to 365. We bought each other a little celebration mini, so he got no peer pressure at all. Andrew got some airborne US troops so that he can join us in bolt action.
Yep.
And he grabbed an extra MMG team for my winter US troops for Colmar, which I then chopped up into a HMG team. And then realized that I'd made all my teams with one man too few. So I'm back to converting extra ammo carriers and stuff for them now.
Well, always handy to have them look. Well, they're the first guy to die anyway. So Johnny on the spot with the ammo, out he goes.
Poor old Johnny. So that's been the big thing for my hobby has been trying to get through the last models for the 365. I had a commission to finish basing a War Master army and a ton of Shatterpoint models that I have not done anything to.
Sorry, James.
James came around to pay for another commission the other day and gave me too much money, and I was like, "Oh, I haven't done the Shatterpoint ones," and he was like, "No, no, no, but I'm gonna get even more fleet troopers for Star Wars now that I know how good they are, and I'm going to take them to CanCon.
Yeah.
So here's the extra money. You need to get these painted for me before before January. So that's going to go on my commission table list as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's congrats on finishing off the 365.
Thanks, man.
So it's you and Andrew have been pretty inspiring on the socials, showing them off, and that dragon you painted for the end was pretty sweet. So
It was pretty nice.
yeah,
He's been floating around for a while. Look, honestly, he's not the nicest paint job in the world, but he sometimes when you get like that last model done,
yeah,
and then you're like, great, now I can actually spend quality time on some models again.
yeah.
So since finishing the challenge, I feel like my painting has improved because I'm not trying to
Like
just
just
smash
pump
them
out
out.
a bunch of
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah,
I definitely lowered my standard on some of my models to get through as much as I have this year. Yeah.
yeah. I do feel that way with my zombies. I haven't gone into quite as much detail on them as I normally would, but that's because I wanted to have that as a project completed, so that way I can go and move on to something that I actually really want to paint,
Yeah.
including my silver bayonet stuff because
Yeah.
they've gone through. Like I've had them built for a while. I've got a set of bandits done up for one of the scenarios out of the main rulebook,
Mm.
and also my French force. And then you've got yourself a trading company force from the Canada
I
book,
have.
because that book really kind of like I always kind of liked the look of it,
Yeah.
but the Canada book came out, and I went, you know what, I need to get
Mm.
this. It's very cool because my French troops can also fight there. It also introduced like American forces
Mm.
and a few other bits and pieces as well. But what's really cool about for stuff that's coming out that's caught our eye is the new Italian campaign book set in Calabria, which is really cool because they have necromancers and skeleton warriors
Yeah.
and
Spectral.
shades.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Spectral fighters and things.
so
The
the new models look really good as well.
the animated grave
Yes, the grave golem
looks
thing.
so good because
Yeah,
I love the idea of it not just being like a corpse golem. It's like, no, I'm the whole graveyard. There's like
like
bits of armor on him that are tombstones and the ground itself and all the like crushed coffins that he's pulled up into its
still
body.
got his like little shaker on top though on the head.
Yeah, just normal size head, huge body.
Huge
It's
body.
like Space Marine logic.
Yeah, so
Yep.
I'm really looking forward to that stuff coming out. So
That'd
that
be
stuff
really
looks
good.
really cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm really keen because we're leaning towards a winter board for that you're doing for your stuff, and I would love to get all of our like silver bayonet stuff out on the table there, skirmish it up because the cool thing with silver bayonet is you only need like a 3x3 board or a 4x4.
Yeah, it's
So
only small.
getting enough scenery together to play a couple of missions of that
Yeah,
will not take too much time out of your hobby, for
no,
example.
no.
And then we can build that up to the Colmar stuff.
Yeah, so the idea with some of the terrain for that, yeah, is to have it as dual purpose. I think we mentioned that in the last episode. I was looking at making it as a dual purpose board, or multi-purpose really, because I'm going to use it for a bunch of other stuff too.
Mm.
So got plenty there to work on, plenty of stuff to look at. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much cool stuff. Hero Forge has released some new bits and pieces which look really cool as well.
Yeah, nice.
So those of you who don't know about Hero Forge, do go online and check them out. If you're looking for any miniatures for D&D, sci-fi, Western, like doesn't really matter. It's a miniature creator, and I'm sure a lot of people already know about it. I'm like, yes, Mitch, I already know about it. But it's one of those things that they keep releasing stuff every month with new updates, and some of it's really cool. Like I think they had what was it, some cultist upgrade sets with
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
different style hoods and bits and pieces, and
They
it's always nice to see what they are bringing out.
absolutely they do community contests once in a while where they're like,
Yeah, yeah.
here's your theme. What can you make with our stuff? Which is a great little promo for them because people come up with these amazing builds and using accessories in different ways to create effects. And yeah, it's really cool. You can spend hours on there just messing around with the character builder, even
Yeah.
without actually, yeah. Like when I was looking for D&D characters to create for the campaign that you've just run for us,
Yep.
half the time I was just in there building cool looking things, and then going, all right, well, now I've got to decide on a character archetype that I can use this for.
Yeah,
Super cool.
I've spent most of the characters that we've got for my wife's group that I run for all of her workmates. Most of those guys have all got theirs done up through Hero Forge because it's just an easy way to build things that they like, characters they like.
Yeah.
We had a bunch done up for the Ravenloft campaign you ran for us as well for our main group. Got my Herdark, my half orc samurai who really doesn't know how to use a sword properly.
Herdark.
So he's just punching dudes out, including the including that priest that slayed him into the ground.
Assaulting clergymen. There's all kinds of good stuff happening with that guy.
Wrestling werewolves because he can't hurt them with his regular sword. So yeah, some of their stuff has really caught my eye, especially for building up extra little bits and pieces for some of the other games we sort of, well, more than I've been eyeing off because there's an awful lot of games. Plus, I've watched some of the Stargrave stuff recently. So just like Frostgrave and Silver Bayonet, it's another Joe McCullough game, which is really cool. It's all science fiction, and I thought about using our Star Wars figures for it because we've got tons of that.
Absolutely.
And it's a small, like lower scale skirmish game, which is really quite cool. So yeah. So I've been playing around the Hero Forge because of that as well.
Nice. Well, I watched the Alien Romulus.
Yeah, the new one
movie the other day.
I haven't seen it.
I was just like, you know what, aliens, and immediately was like, oh, I'm going to bust out all those guys from the board game. Another Glorious Day in the Core, which is really cool, very characterful.
We should
particularly because there are cards in there where you're like, things are going really good, and then you flip over a card and it's like Burke backstabs everyone because he's a corporate shill. And God damn it, Burke! And you lose all these like this cool mechanic where there's like the deck of cards that you pull from is resources that you can equip.
Yeah.
But you also spend that deck to fire specialist weapons and to do things.
Right, okay, yep.
And if you ever run out of that deck completely, then you're out of ammo, health, stamina, and you die. The whole team gives up.
It's game over, man.
You've got to be like, okay, for my activation, I'm actually going to resupply, and I won't do anything shooty or open any doors. But I'm going to check ammo on the group or however you want to imagine it, and you get to return some cards from the recycle pile back into the active pile.
Yeah.
But then there's a completely discarded pile, and nothing comes back from there. And that's where stuff like Burke backstabbing everyone will be like, discard like 3 of the top cards.
Yeah, well, that'd always hurt.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really fun stuff in that. The miniatures are very cool, and they're quite cheap as well. And that would be rad because we could run some Stargrave missions or a role-playing game.
Yes.
Played like Aliens role-playing game, Colonial Marines and stuff, yeah.
I did have an idea for something like that using my old guardsmen and a whole bunch of other bits and pieces.
So many cool options. So yeah, there's a lot of different stuff on our plates at the moment. Andrew and I, we talk about Andrew a lot. We're probably going to try to drag him on here to talk about Warmaster.
He'll definitely want to come on and talk Warmaster stuff.
Andrew. But also because he's just starting his foray into bolt action.
Yep.
We thought we might talk to Andrew about maybe
second foray.
Yeah, second foray. We fickle hobbyists that we are. We got into it and then we dropped out of it for a while.
Back in first ed, we got into
and we didn't really sort of set ourselves up well to get back into it easily. So almost all of us sold at least one of our armies, and Andrew dropped out of it for a while. But he's just getting back in now, and another friend of ours, Lee. And we'll see. We might see if they want to come in and talk about what it's like to be a brand new bolt actioner or a returning bolt actioner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of come on in the waters Rhine, our friend Metten as well dragged out a bunch of German zombie miniatures that I'm not even sure of the company who made them, but he dragged those out and he brought them along to the last game meetup. And he was like, is there a way I can go through and utilize these? And I'm like, well, there's Conflict 47, which we can kind of just, it's got a new rulebook coming out, which I'm excited for that.
The writing team on that
It's like
yeah,
gaming royalty, right? Like,
it's gold.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy cool. So hopefully he'll get in on it as well. So with a few bits, he was really he was trolling the Warlord website when he was at the gaming day and watch it on, so he can get an army that can run dual purpose, play some bolt action with us, and also play some Conflict 47 when we roll around to
Yeah.
that. So
So
yeah,
lots of bolt action, lots of prep for the other games that we've mentioned. Andrew and I branched out from War Master into Man of War because
yeah,
we've just printed a couple of fleets from Forest Dragon, Go Forest Dragon, um, and they're both Bretonian fleets, but he's doing up the royal fleet of the king, and I'm doing up the fleet of the like vampire lord of Muzelon. So they're all like the crewmen that are like, we don't want to get bitten, so we'll do whatever you say. And so my ships are still normal Bretonian ships, but they look really tatty and disheveled, and like the colors have run a bit in the rain. And that's going to be interesting.
that'll be cool to see. Yeah, the old Man of War stuff was pretty out there with some of the ships,
Yeah.
the way with the giant bombards on the front and things like that. But it'll be interesting to see that out on the tabletop. So maybe I might need to get a high elf fleet. So
Yeah.
I do like high elf fleets. They are very nice looking models.
Well, I think Andrew was going to look at printing some up like expanding the size and printing them at War Master scale so
Yeah.
that he can have a dock on the edge of the
Oh,
board
that'd be
and
sweet.
just have them as like set dressing for the board. But yeah, you can have a shipyard or like the harbor because he's got two castles effectively, and you
Yeah,
could
he does.
actually
Yeah.
have the ships coming in and then disembarking extra troops into the battlefield.
Yeah.
So time will tell.
Very
I
nice.
I was pretty big on telling Andrew that we needed to scale up some of the Forest Dragon 3D ships to um what is it, 10 mil for War Master, and then we'll see if we can actually include them in Fjord Serpents.
Oh,
Cause,
that would be cool.
yeah, because
Yeah.
then we can use the stands from our War Master guys, put them on the deck, and actually have like High Elves and Norse and Bretonian forces
That would be sweet. Yeah.
in Fjord Dragons rules. But time will tell.
Yeah.
That's a crazy extra amount of work for us to do. We don't even have the base game yet.
Yeah.
But that's the main things that have been on my hobby table. Heaps of bolt action, which we'll talk about soon. Lots and lots of War Master stuff, mostly for other people. Um, some Mordheim stuff for you.
Yep.
Just I think that's most of what's brand new for us.
Yeah, yeah. So like apart from like so when we get to the Colmar pocket that we're building the bulge, so we'll go through the rest of the bits and pieces we have on mine, but we might move on to our next section, which is state of the game. And now on to state of the game. So what's really cool is we've got a teaser for the German rules coming out for V3 for their new book in January. Very sick looking new Gerbex miniature with his umbrella for stealth.
That was the kind of model where as soon as it showed up, I was like, oh, I have to tell my friend Mitch about this. Like, it's straight back to my childhood of like, I found the coolest thing that my friend would like, and
Yeah.
immediately started posting photos to you, which of course you'd already seen.
That's because I don't sleep properly. So I was when it came out at midnight for the newsletter, I was still awake. So yeah, so yeah, new German rules. Very interesting to see. We got the old favourites, which is the Hitler's Buzzsaw. Yeah.
Yep.
So for the extra, I drew a blank. I don't know why because it's such a cool rule.
Yeah.
So Hitler's Buzzsaw for the extra shot. The Officer Training, which now is just straight up, kill the dude off, and he's.
I'm loving that. Well,
Yeah.
let's go through them one section at a time.
Yeah.
Hitler's Buzzsaw, if you haven't seen it, is all light machine guns and medium machine guns gain an extra shot. And this is calculated after you've taken away half the shots for vehicle-mounted ones.
Yeah.
So all their vehicle-mounted machine guns get, 3 shots if they've got LMGs, which I don't think there's really any that do.
I think it's mainly the light tanks or the armored cars.
Yeah, like the really early ones.
Yep.
Like the Diet Panzers. But almost all of them have a whole MMG and a coax
MMG as well. Yeah.
Just because you never know who's listening. Coax is short for coaxial, and that means it's built on the same mount as the main gun. So they used to use them mostly for tracer fire to lead the target for the main gun. But it means that when you need to, if you're on the move, instead of firing a wildly inaccurate shot with the main cannon, you can go, well, I'm just going to pump all these machine gun shots and just strafe away at some infantry.
Yeah.
So on average, like a Sherman has the same setup, a whole machine gun and a turret machine gun.
Yep, T-34's got the same deal.
Yep.
So, yep.
It was really standard for most vehicles. But standard vehicles will be getting 6 shots, and all the German ones will be getting 8, which means they can reliably put out a decent amount of firepower.
Yeah.
And if they do have any that have more, like some, you can put a pintle mounted machine gun on as well. Like Tigers can have a pintle on the turret for the commander, so you can have 3. Yeah,
that's a lot of shots.
Yeah, so they will be putting out 12 shots.
Yeah,
but that's instead of firing the main gun. So it's 8 shots and the main gun, or 12 shots on its own.
Yeah,
which, depending on your targets and opportunity, could be really handy.
Yeah. I mean, the amount of shots that most vehicles can put out anyway, and this is something that, again, playing at the tournament for second edition, going up against some of the armies that had like multiple machine gun systems firing, and 4 or 5 shots. It was a massive amount of firepower to go up against.
Yeah,
halving the shots now in this current edition, version 3. Look, it's still good, but it does hurt some of those vehicles a little bit more. But thankfully, with the German ones, and this now being as a German player, I get to say, how cool is this rule? So, because I get to use it now, it is quite handy to have. Having that extra shot does mean a chance to take out that one extra person.
Yeah.
So just forcing the extra roll for the cover save, that sort of thing. Yeah. It's quite handy.
And just having the volume of fire to guarantee enough hits, or even just to guarantee that you're going to get a hit while you're on the move, or if you're using inexperienced vehicles, just getting those hits to put those pins on.
Yeah.
That's the buzzsaw rule. It also means that outside of the vehicles, everything else that's got an LMG or an MMG gets more shots. So the German medium machine gun teams for their infantry are spitting out, 7 shots?
7 shots each.
Which is almost as much as a full rifle squad on its own.
Yep.
And in our very first version 3 game that we got, I fielded a unit of grenadiers that had 2 LMGs, which meant they were just a little fire base putting out 10 shots just from the LMGs.
It was a lot of firepower to take. Yeah,
and I usually put an LMG in every squad, but thinking about it, I built way too many. For whatever reason, I built 10 LMG teams when I built my models.
Yeah.
So now I've been just waiting for a situation outside of Stalingrad where they didn't really use the 2-man teams with 2 LMGs per squad. Now that we're sort of branching out into some more flexible army options, I get to actually field those and go, wow, I can just have these crazy fire bases.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm happier to have that in an 8-man squad than a little 3-man squad on an MMG team.
Well, you could even go a 5-man squad with a sergeant and 2 LMGs.
Yeah,
that's still putting out 10 shots.
Yeah,
plus a rifle from the sarge. So it's a lot of shots.
There's lots of little minor technical things. Like if you've got an MMG team, I think they don't go down to -1 to hit till there's only 1 guy left.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so, yeah.
But if I take a 5-man squad of grenadiers, and 2 of them become teams, as soon as I take a casualty, I'm losing a loader.
Yeah.
And then that means one of the LMGs is at -1. If I take 2 casualties, both of them. So there's lots of little ins and outs to it, but you can mess around with it and have some really shooty fun. And that's the main thing.
Yeah. So the other thing is the extra snap on the snap to action order. Getting the extra man, which is again one from the old German book.
Yeah.
Again handy. So it does mean that your lower level officers will go through and get 3. Your higher level officers will get 5.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff to snap to.
So this ties into something that we talked about in an earlier episode. I think we might have just talking about it, where some of the complaints early on were that with more models and more um, more varieties of units in the game for version 3, that the game would take a lot longer. But because you've got to take an officer for every platoon, you've got more officers giving out snap to action orders and activating, 3 squads in the same move.
Yeah.
So that's a big part of the speed play balance out as far as I'm concerned, particularly for Germans, because I think it's the Blitzkrieg rule is what gives them that extra.
That's, yeah.
Which, if you use it as a blitzkrieg, as like that lightning attack, I usually use it so that I can fire 2 mortars at the same time. So I'll keep like an officer back with my mortar teams and make sure that they both get to fire before my targets can move out of the way and break my ranging in bonuses.
Well, very handy for that, yeah. Yeah. I think having, especially when in those situations where you go, look, I really need to get like the first couple of dice out of the bag to really put pressure onto a certain area on the table, taking out one of those troops, or even just keeping something pinned in place. Being able to utilize your snap to action and getting that extra, it's just one, even though it's one extra dice, it can make a massive difference if you've got something where you go, I really need to have all of these 3 things happen at once.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take, for example, if you had in your upcoming German army, you've got a couple of Pack 40s hunkered down, like guarding the territory that you have claimed from the French.
Yep.
And you know that I'm bringing in some heavy armor. If you snap to action and you just put both of the Pack 40s on ambush before I have a chance to do anything else, then I can't break cover without getting smashed with hypervelocity shells. It's getting into anime territory. You're using hypervelocity attacks, Captain.
Yeah.
But you can set up your ambush just by snapping to action and putting people in ambush so they can cover a whole flank.
Exactly. And I mean, even for your basic troops, that's still going to work out quite well. Your MMG teams sitting down behind some cover. It's all handy for that kind of stuff. It really, I think, it's something that in our game you did use a couple of times where you used the snap to action just to get a couple of things in place a bit easier, which we'll get into a little bit as well. But yeah, I think for my upcoming army, definitely going to be utilised, especially for my heavy weapons teams.
Well, having a veteran army, which most of your stuff is going to be veteran from the Gebirgsjäger.
Yeah.
That because they're worth more, but they've got a wider variety of equipment, better guns, making the use of those. Like if you can put them on ambush so they can catch people in the open, the amount of shots coming out of the assault rifles means they can do the job of a heavy machine gun team.
Yeah.
Because they're just putting out that much fire. Or they need to move up to a wall and, put some pins on something before it can activate, pin out the mortar team, pin out the sniper.
Yeah.
You can just snap to action a couple of those teams and get them doing that job fast.
Yeah.
Because veterans being amazing, you don't want to be just getting a few pins on and that's a few modifiers and slowly losing their effectiveness. But if they can take the offense with that blitzkrieg move, then you can get even more out of those specialist troops, I think.
Yeah. Look, it'll be interesting to see, like putting it onto the table and actually putting it in practice will be where we'll really be able to tell what's going on with what.
Yeah.
Theory hammer is always really good, isn't it? But yeah, until you actually, no plan survives contact with the enemy. So yeah, it'll be just down to what the dice rolls are like. No, my rolls again pretty bad. So
I feel like theory hammer is the game you play when your mum says we've got gaming at home, and you can't make it to a mate's place, so you just think about games. But so from my side of the snap to action thing, if I'm looking at my forces, I've got my French troops and I've got a couple of dedicated close combat units in there. Like I've got
the Gumiers and
2 10-man squads of Gumiers, and I've made a little Gumier command squad, which we'll talk about in the next rule for the Fatherland. And the idea that my officer could go, both you squads get your assaults now, and use the snap to action ability to get them in before you can set up some firepower in different places. Like especially for those clutch units that have to get something done at the right moment, those snap to action moves are going to be key.
True, and I mean, especially with one of the other rules that they have as well is the when your officer gets taken out. So the actual the German
Yeah,
army
is it the
training,
special training one? Yeah.
yeah, the training one where they go through, and even if you do have someone taken out, say by a sniper, so you can just have someone else take the hit instead, so that way you still sort of keep going
Mm.
as normal. I mean, it's something that rule's been around, but now it's just an automatic thing as opposed to a 2+ roll. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I,
not a like it's something that will be a benefit if you do end up getting taken out like that. But
yeah.
I don't know if it comes up all that often. I'm sure for some players.
Without exceptional damage being around anymore, it's all about snipers.
Yeah,
And as a German player previously, people would roll the exceptional damage, they'd shoot my guy on a 2+, someone else would just take over. But listening to a lot of other content creators that I follow, some of them were really down to the nitty-gritty of it. They're like, anybody else picks up that dude's weapon and becomes the new NCO. So they were using it to elect the loader of their light machine guns to be the new NCO.
mm,
So now he was a loader, but also had a assault rifle that he'd picked up off the dead sergeant.
yeah,
And lots of really finicky, like tight rules stuff, which none of it seemed logical to me.
mm.
Now they just go, wow, that guy got really killed. He got sniped in the face. And the rest of the Germans go, at least we're not going to stress out about it because someone, Heinrich over there has the plan.
Yeah.
So they don't suffer the -1 penalty for losing the NCO, but they do suffer the actual loss of the NCO and any cool gear that he had.
Yeah, yeah. It's something that obviously will come up only if you do really have that sniper, actually doing the work to try and take it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's certainly a rule that it will be something that's actually in there that will really make a difference every now and then.
So we're going to move on to the final rule in this section, which is the For the Fatherland one, I think.
Yep, this is one I'm really excited for. It came out and I was like, oh yeah, it's some extra rules. I went, oh, it's actually got the Gerbungsjäger rules in. I'm like, very, very cool. Before we get to that though, we'll talk about the other two. So these are overall for the rule, it's to pick your flavour for the army. So
Yes.
you could take just a regular German here army. So German, just basic dudes, any time period, whatever you might want to do. You could take a slanted list, like your Africa Corps. You take a Blitzkrieg early war army. Doesn't really matter. They're all going to be your basic Germans, unless you take one of the three that they have listed in the book. So this would be things like your Gerbungsjäger, your Waffen SS, or your Fallschirmjäger. So,
and for those at home that aren't familiar, the Gerbungsjäger are mountain troops. They're like mountain pioneer troops. The Waffen SS were like fanatical troops devoted to Hitler's cause specifically, and then the Fallschirmjäger are the German paratroopers. So three very different styles of fighting represented.
yeah, so they were all different branches within the same sort of military. There is a lot of differences between them, but also a whole bunch of similarities. Their equipment is all basically the same. Like there's no, it's not like if you're playing say 40k and you go, well, I want to take a Space Marine army. You go, cool, what type of Space Marine army within that? And you go, I want to take Blood Angels. Blood Angels get like a ton of extra stuff that a Dark Angels player wouldn't get or a Space Wolf player wouldn't get. They all still have the same basic equipment. It all comes down to the little rules here and there that help sort of change the flavor of the army. And I do really like that moving forward as an idea that you could apply that to other forces as well. So to the other nations when they come down the line.
Absolutely.
We could probably get into a little bit of theory in that in just a minute, though.
Sure.
So yeah, what's your take on it? I know because you've got a basic German army, you don't really have any sort of like specific.
For sure. So this is actually one of my favorite rules because of what it means for the rest of bolt action. So the way that they've explained it, and a few people have sort of theorized, is that when you take a particular veteran unit like Fallschirmjäger, Instead of just saying this is a unit of veterans, the Fallschirmjäger have a special rule like stubborn, right, to represent that they were really hard to push out of locations they wanted to keep. But if you take a machine gun team or a Panzerfaust team or something, and you want it modeled up to look like German paratroopers, they don't get those extra rules. They just have um, the fact that they're veterans, so they just have the veteran ability, like the leadership and the harder to wound. But now you could pay a couple of points extra and give them that themed rule of also being stubborn. And then likewise for the Gebirgsjäger, they have moved through cover. They've got the Fieldcraft rule, so you can give that to other units to represent their machine gun teams or their officers or whatever,
Very much so.
or their big freaking guns. Because they can take the gun shields off to have basically like all-terrain artillery that they can actually schlep through the mountains and get into good positions.
Yeah. So it's definitely one of the advantages of it. The Waffen SS get their fanatics rules for their troops. I mean, again, it's down to what's going to work out coolest for your army. So these three flavors allow you to take something just a little bit different. A still standard German force gets all the other rules we talked about before, because eventually you'll find that a rifle is a rifle. A machine gun is a machine gun, but having that extra little bit of flavor does help out, and especially with something like my army that I'm doing for my second Gebirgsjäger. I really love the rule for it. Fieldcraft, being able to move through cover on the stuff through the dense terrain, really quite handy. The gun shield being able to be removed means that you can actually represent the mountain guns they actually had. You used to drag them up using donkey teams and things like that to drag them up mountainsides to fire down on troops. It's definitely something that's very, very cool. And like for a Fallschirmjäger army, like we were talking about this morning, sorry, not this morning, earlier tonight, we were talking about it just before we got on air here. And we were talking about different sort of plans on what you can do for a force, whether you use the rules, whether you don't, to represent a mixed army. So it doesn't have you don't go, oh well, I've got a Fallschirmjäger element to my army. I don't necessarily have to take all the Fallschirmjäger rules that go with it.
Yeah. So I'm all about it. There's some tactical advantages as well, because they give you things that you might need. Particularly, I'm thinking about the Gebirgsjäger with the mountain guns. Some of the missions that we roll up have everything starting in reserve and needing to be deployed in first waves and things. And a lot of people, like, if you want to take an artillery section, you've got to think to yourself, I'm going to have to drag this on using my tow vehicles early on. But the mountain guns can actually be moved into difficult terrain. No other artillery can. It can only start in it. Which means you guys can drag it up into some ruins or up into a forest on top of a hill or something in that first move. And it gives you a much wider versatility of how you can deploy those heavier weapons.
Most of the mountain guns, like they're light, medium howitzers, so you're still talking, are you firing it over sights for that? So you're not getting the so that way, because most of the ranges for those are, your exclusion zone is like 24 inches plus. So you're going to have to be mount them up in a corner somewhere and hopefully ranging in on different parts of the field if you're using indirect fire, which, especially when you get rid of those pesky cover saves, definitely is handy for
it. Particularly, sorry to cut you off, particularly when your opponent's doing the same thing, going, I'm going to move my howitzers on, but I need to find an open pit of ground to do it. I need to use a road to get the speed bonus or things for my trunk. They are more restricted in what they can apply. But you can move them on, and then next turn you go, right, snap to action. Like, I'm going to fire this entire artillery section. Watch this. 4th of July. So it's very, very cool. The reason that I like it more than just what it does for the Germans is for the fact that they have said that rules like this will be applied to all the other major factions. So I immediately thought of my Gumiers that I was talking about before, my Moroccan French troops, because the only ones that get the tough fighters as the veterans are the standard infantry that they have. They have these veteran infantry with rifles and tough fighters because they were renowned for collecting ears on patrols and things. They were really, really brutal in what they did. But if I want to take a rifle platoon of them, then my officer is just a regular French officer that I've modeled up in Moroccan robes or like outfit, traditional garb. But he doesn't have tough fighter. He'll just be a veteran. Now, maybe he will. Now I might have different weapons teams that I can theme up to represent their support elements. That I can give the rule to, and they'll have tough fighter as well.
True.
Similarly, there's the French, the mountaineers. There's something Alpine.
Alpine de Chasseur or something like that. Yeah,
exactly. Chasseurs Alpine. The Alpine fighters. They had different rules for being mountain troops that potentially I could then actually apply to whole squads and the snipers. And they're like, anti-tank rifle teams or something.
Well, I mean, this is also true for, say, an American force. If you're taking American paratroopers, you want to have veteran. You can take veterans for everything. For your heavy weapons teams, your commanders, everything like that.
Exactly.
Your medics, whatever it might be. However, having them being actual, 101st Airborne, paratroopers, actual, having the extra benefits they would have for that would be quite handy.
Exactly.
Same could be said of if you're taking an army of Japanese special naval landing force. So,
British and inter-allied commandos, like their special abilities.
So the other thing would be for the Russian naval troops, the Black Death, being able to go through and take full command groups of those, support weapon teams like they all had. I was actually just listening to the latest episode of Ghost Army podcast in the car on the way here. And Brad and Brian were talking about the naval force that Brad's working on. Apparently there was a section where they actually had scouting forces with the suits, the amoeba suits, the baggy jumpsuits that I've got all my scouts in. Doing a whole you could do a whole scouting force of just that, but also maybe just doing a scouting force of the naval troops with like all the hats, like the actual traditional like sailor hats. But one other thing that could also go through and work out quite well is not just only doing it for this particular element within an army, but doing for campaign styles. So if you had an actual, let's say, the Stalingrad list that I'd done up for my army, they're actually having a list that would be like, okay, you're taking this defense list of Stalingrad, defensive Stalingrad, you have this, and this. The special rules you get for 1 point would be this, and this. You could do that to any theatre. You could apply that. So you could go any force of, let's say, British in the desert. You could go through and you could have specialist rules for Ratsa Tobruk. So they could get these abilities. They'd be regular troops, but still stubborn or something like that.
You could get a fieldcraft bonus for troops that had the Rattenkrieg special rule for your Stalingrad guys.
The Kokoda track. Australians could have their own one because of that. You go, they all get fieldcraft because let's face it, they were doing that kind of stuff, but they also gain this rule as well and make that just like a 1 or 2 point upgrade. So you could do this for any kind of theatre. You could even have, for example, something completely off the wall different as far as the list is concerned, but go, if you want to make this list, quite literally take this section at this point's done. And apply it to every unit that has it. So rather than having it as an army-wide special rule, which admittedly they have used before and would work out quite well overall if you're doing something like that. But if you go, I want to have a British Commonwealth list, so I want it to be an Australian list within that. I need to take these elements to make it an Australian force of this type. I can go through and select out of these three things. It's like the old build your own guard army from the old one of the old 4th edition guard book. That was so much fun because your old Druki and Fengard were done up out of that.
There's a lot of green stuffing touch.
But doing something like that, whereas quite literally pick and choose your rules, you've got to take a drawback or whatever it might be if they are going to introduce anything like that. Because at the moment, we've kind of really only seen positives as far as the unit options.
as a wider discussion, I've noticed that that's a big thing for loads of people who are just like cannot deal with or do not want to deal with a negative that is balanced by a positive.
Yeah.
Like there's lots of stuff that was negatives in the French and the Italian lists,
Oh,
but they
yes.
were really themed and
Yeah.
they made perfect sense. But for a more positive forward experience, they're just sort of trying to focus on here are the good things about the French army, here are the good things about the Italian army, and you can't necessarily make them so good that they balance out the negatives.
Yeah.
So just not putting in the negatives, you can put those in for narrative games and make that a theme. So we can always put that stuff back in. Like the missions that we're planning for Colmar, I've got a lot of scenario rules that only apply to one side or the other because that's the theme that is a trade-off or a negative for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But for competitive games or just for overall balance, if everyone's got one or two positive rules, then that's all they really need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I think there's a lot of scope going forward from here as to what they can write up. It'll be really interesting to see what they put in through for the American book. So yeah, if you have like, the big red one, like for the infantry, having maybe Rangers as a separate one. There's that. Look, to be honest, if they're going to do that, they're definitely going to be the airborne, like whether it's Army Airborne 101st, whatever it is, like you could do that kind of side of stuff. Like I honestly think this is a way forward to help add flavor to those armies where people want to pick something. You can still, the lists are still flexible enough. If you want to take something particular, you can, but it'll still be down to exactly what you want to take for those benefits. I can see it as being a good step going forward. I can't wait to see what else they do.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah. I'm really hoping some good stuff for the Soviets.
Anything that adds more flavor like this is a win for me.
Yeah, for me as well. Yeah. And we were lucky enough to have our first version 3 game the other week at our gaming meetup that we have.
Indeed. The seal has been broken, and now we will forever be going back to the bathroom of version 3.
That's not the way to describe it, but yeah. So we have used our Moab forces with a few tweaks because we got to add some extra new toys into it. It was a lot of fun. The very different, much less. You mentioned a much less mentally taxing game.
It was
like not the modifiers,
like so noticeable how fast you could get everything done, and I would rather spend my brain energy on the tactics than on calculating the variations onto hit rolls. That's the big thing for me.
Yeah, that was one thing. I still started doing it for the first like one or two times I started shooting, but afterwards we're just like, oh yeah, it's range. That's it.
Yeah.
Like
just move.
Oh no, just move. Yeah, it's no longer range anymore. See, I'm still getting myself confused.
We had no inexperienced troops, so we didn't have to worry about that modifier.
No.
And so the only thing was, do you have a pin and did you move?
Yeah.
And that was it. And you just throw those dice. The cover saves was super easy to remember as well.
Yep.
Yeah, it's great. Well, we also ended up with a ton of point blank range.
A lot, yeah, actually.
So
an awful lot, yeah.
Like a lot. We were like, well, I guess I'll fire at you. Don't bother going down, chump. You're going to get shredded by submachine guns.
Yeah, that scout squad that jumped out and ran in from off the left flank.
They were so efficient.
Yeah.
So from the start, we rolled up the missions, and we ended up with the sort of standard traditional deployment, like across each side. But it was the first wave one where we could send in most of our troops in the first wave or hold some stuff in reserve.
Yep.
But we had the demolitions objectives where we had a counter in each deployment zone to go and take out with some squads in close combat. And it meant, like, I thought I was being brash and dangerous. I was like, I'm going to run these 2 squads of 10 grenadiers across the street. We're going to like dash from cover to cover in front of the T-34.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm doing stupid stuff here. But even then, they barely made it within range to assault the objective before the end of the game.
I didn't even make anywhere near your back
No, you
line.
had one move away. You had a command squad that was one move from reaching mine.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, it
But-
was a bit over a week ago we played, so it's a bit fuzzy, yeah.
But just desperation to get the stuff done. And it also made me think, wow, I really wish I had held a transport in reserve, or I'd like spearheaded to push your army to the side so I could get through.
Yeah.
If I had planned like that, but I did my usual thing, which was, this looks like a cool matchup from a movie, and I scattered my guys all over the deployment zone and like attacked and approached like unit by unit.
Yeah.
But yeah, just getting the objectives done is so important. And in the end, we came down to neither objective was destroyed. We totaled up all the dice to see who got the most kills, and there was only a difference of one.
Yeah, to you. So, yeah, I didn't manage to clear off enough of your units. Mind you, in this game, we did actually have pretty similar lists. It was I had an infantry platoon and an armored platoon.
Mm-hmm.
You had the same deal, I'm pretty sure.
Rifle platoon and an armored platoon. I don't think I had anything else.
No.
Yeah, but even within that, we had enough variety. Like, you had two outflanking Soviet scout units.
Yep.
And because those guys come on and just go, hey, I see you've taken up cover here, I'm going to move right up to point blank.
Yeah.
And we'll toss a few grenades in, we'll hose everybody down with bullets.
Mm-hmm.
They were so efficient, and then they just moved along the line. All the little guys that I'd left, like a command squad or an artillery observer or something, that had done their jobs and were just kind of moving up the field. Your guys were just like, cool, we'll shred that guy while he's in the open, we'll take that team out.
Yeah, well, see, the big thing that we had at the start of the game was our snipers dueling off, because we did include our infiltrating units onto the board, so that way we could actually utilize the new rules, which were really quite nice. The new sniper rules felt really quite good.
Yeah,
being able to just go through and ignore the any cover, that kind of thing. It did feel quite nice to use them.
Yeah.
I'll
say on that point, we accidentally ended up in a situation where most of what our snipers could see was each other.
Yeah, that's
we had
true,
really limited options to like kill squad leaders and stuff. And because we didn't have them, we just kept pinging away at each other. And we got some really bad dice rolls as well. It was like turn 5 and they were both still like snapping shots at each other. Mine had lost his loader for 3 turns.
Yeah, although mine did take a pin from yours, but didn't. I think there was one round he failed his order test, and he kind of sat there hugging cover, checking his rifle over as though nothing was actually wrong.
We wanted to make sure that we included a lot of new units that we don't always use, because we've got very themed narrative lists. Please see our previous podcast episodes for discussions. So we had some snipers to use. We had a couple of officers for snap to action. For the German side, I put in a few LMGs to make sure we could try those.
Yep.
We both took an armored platoon because our traditional lists don't have a lot of armor in them.
Mine definitely doesn't. So,
absolutely. So you brought what, a Chaos 1?
A KV-1 and a T-34, yeah.
Yep.
You had big old shiny tiger.
Yeah, he's been painted for ages, and I've never used him. And he was pretty good. I was pretty happy with it.
He was.
Except that time he hit a T-34 head on and just rolled a 1 and pinged his hypersonic shell off into a different anime series.
It's true. You also had a Panzer IV as well.
Yeah, with the light
howitzer. Which is still quite handy to have, just to like lob some shells in to take out a decent amount of troops in one hit.
It makes you think twice about staying in the crater. Like, you get into cover and he goes, well, I'm going to start indirect fire at you. And then you think, oh, sugar, should I get out of here? Maybe I should redeploy. But mine copped engine damage off the first shot against it from the
KV-1.
And so he was like backing away at half speed. We both had vehicles that failed order checks and were forced back.
Yep. Off the table in my case.
We had like the vehicles catching on fire. I managed to do the sneaky old Panzerfaust in a truck.
Yep.
and jumped out. And
zoomed up the road the entire length up the edge of the board.
Gunned it, dropped the guys out behind a what do you call it? A bunker. I had to stop and like fight the guys near the bunker, but we just got that lucky flank shot on the armor, and then because we had enough pins on, it was my Panzer IV failed the test and backed up. Your KV failed the test, but it was so close to the edge, that he was off.
Off he went. Yeah, so that is I will admit, being one of the first times I've really run vehicles in this army. I have previously run a T-34 in my original army, but before the current iteration of it. And look, it felt good to use vehicles because I actually had something that could go up against your armor instead of going, I've got an AT rifle. Yeah. That's the best I got. Yeah. So
please turn around.
Yeah, please show me the rear, and hopefully I can get a shot in here.
It's a small thermal exhaust port.
But yeah, having even just the medium AT on both the vehicles, like the KV one having the armored all round, it was good right until I got Panzerfausted in the side. But it's handy for taking some of those heavier hits. But the super heavy AT on the Tiger had me really, really scared, especially when he rolls up at the end of a road, can see down the entire length of the street. Sits there, goes, cool, I'm not moving, I get +1 to hit because I've got an anti-tank gun.
It was hot.
Yeah.
So I can't remember if I told you this on the day, but the big irony that we both had vehicles that took the morale checks and we lost one off the table from falling back. When we talked about this as a previewed rule, where they were like, hey, this can happen to your tanks in all the Warlord community things. One of the things which I foolishly said at the time was, well, it's up to us as generals to make sure that we're far enough onto the board.
Yeah, that's right.
Or that we've got terrain blocking us to help slow that reverse.
Yeah.
And then both of us were just like, well, I got shot, I better back up.
Well, mine did. Your one actually had the angle kind of around a little bit to get
I like
behind
backed over a fence post and stuff like that.
Yeah, mine was just like, whoop, straight off, gone.
But yeah, it's one of those things that, yes, as generals, we've got to think about that. But sometimes we're thinking about getting that sweet +1 to hit for the AT round.
Exactly, and
we don't advance further onto the board because we're like, what's going to happen? And then we find out. And now we've learned.
Yeah.
So the AT, there were so many new rules that we used. We used the +1 to hit for the AT rules.
Yep.
We used all the ignoring cover with different HE things. We both have mortars, and you've got quite a few light mortars in your army.
Yep.
We had the snipers in there to test that out. We had we tend to use a very narrative amount of cover, which sounds a weird thing to say, but compared to some games where you go to a tournament and there's like 2 forests, 2 hills, 2 buildings, which is fine if you're playing the old world or traditional fantasy.
Yeah.
But for a skirmishy World War II game, you need hedgerows and like embankments and places that you can go. And we tend to use a lot of that. But we still really learned that lesson, which I've heard from so many other people, which is, you die fast when you're in the open.
Yeah, very much so.
The cover is great for just giving you a chance. And overwhelming firepower will still clear someone out of cover. But if you maneuver around the side of the hedge and let them have it, or, you take that chance and you jump over the fence and, find that position where you can fire on someone and ignore their cover.
Yeah.
Huge difference. And the Soviet army that you run has a lot of submachine gun squads.
Definitely, yeah.
I have one squad with a few submachine guns and a couple of the Panzerfausts for tank hunting. And when they could catch people, great. But if they don't, you're putting pins on and hoping that people fail.
Yeah, exactly. I think with there was a couple of instances there where I did actually go through take a test. There was a squad that was standing right in front of the Tiger, ready to try and attack it with anti-tank grenades, and it copped firepower from the whole-mounted machine gun, as well as the squad that was back down the road as well, had kind of moved up and was just pouring some firepower in. I think that squad ended up with like 4 or 5 pins on it.
There's a photo of it on the Instagram account.
Yeah, it should be one on there.
5 pins and the down order on it because it just could not shrug them off.
Yeah,
And you,
I mean, if I'd gone rally, yeah, I could have got rid of the whole lot, but I don't think just get pinned again anyway. So I thought, you know what, I'll take the risk on the off chance I managed to
yes,
pass it, shrug at least one off. I think I still had like 6 guys. If
yeah,
I managed to get at least 4 or 5 of those through, I
right,
could do something to scratch your armor if I managed to do
absolutely.
assault.
So my overall experience was I had tons of fun. I played a game that had loads of bolt action moments in it.
You did, yeah.
And at the end of it, I still felt really fresh mentally. And I was like, oh man, I could easily play a tournament of this without like going, all right, it's 12 o'clock, I better start taking my Panadol now.
Yeah.
Like it felt so much smoother and I could focus on what the units were doing because the mathematics, which isn't that overwhelming, I will admit, but for me personally, it's a lot of processing to be doing on 12 dice worth of units and thinking about what your opponent's doing. Are they getting their maths right? When it's
Yeah.
this much more simplified, um, like we both did the maths on most of our stuff, and we're like, oh, so it's only -1, right? Yeah, -1.
Yeah.
And after the first turn, we were pretty much good.
Yeah, there was every now and then I think I made the instance where like, oh, I need to take this
Yeah,
out, and you're like, no, you don't. And I'm like, oh yeah, I
yeah.
don't. Like it
Like
was,
we would
yeah,
we would get the old rules would come back in and mess us up, and we'd be like, well, but range modifiers, and oh wait, no,
yeah,
and yeah, no, loved it. The all the units still did what they were supposed to do,
yeah,
but everything felt a little bit fresh and interesting. There were units that we didn't always use that were great to see. I still had like in the what was it, a 1,300 point list we
yeah. It
did.
was ended up being 1,300 we played.
I
Yeah,
think I had 12 dice, and you had 15 or 16.
no, I had 13.
Maybe I only had.
No, because I only had like one
Oh, I
dice
had
over the top of
11.
you. You had
Yeah,
11, and I had 13. I think it was like 1 or 2 dice
yeah.
extra, because I'd taken the two
Mm,
tanks in it, which I normally wouldn't. So it did have. I found that I did chew through my points a lot quicker
mm,
because under the old rules at 1,100 points, I had 15
yeah,
order dice. So you are paying a little bit extra overall for some of the units because even taking out 2 vehicles,
yeah.
you still like that. There was what 400 odd points, something like that. So we're still talking about 900 points, and I still had nowhere near the amount of units it
Yeah.
felt in my army.
Well, so that's, I guess, aside from the actual playing of the game, something that we discussed was in the current rules, in the get you buy lists,
Hmm.
there are some of the units that we don't really have access to anymore, which you had to fold up into other
Yeah,
squads and different approaches.
and I think that's where the difference is. If I could still take, for me, the anti-tank, like the tank hunter squad, the only anti-tank squads you have at the moment are you taking an anti-tank rifle? Are you taking a bomb dog squad? Or you can upgrade it to be the Empalummet
Yeah.
launcher. They're your only options. The actual tank hunter teams aren't there anymore.
Mm.
Like for the so for me, I would have taken those in the list, probably overtaking an armored platoon. I probably would have filled out either a second
Yeah.
rifle platoon or just added in as much as I could into it if I could take it. I did have a heavy weapons platoon, which was made up of just two, like of the MG team and the medium mortar. So I
Yes.
did have an extra one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I took 3 platoons of mine with that in there. The platoon structure, I'm still like, yeah, I'll just take this and this and this,
Yeah.
and then you kind of go, oh, I've got to take a command squad. It's handy that I've already got enough stuff built up that I can do that, and plus most of the time I'm like, cool, they are armed with submachine guns, go hunting, boys.
Yeah.
So I don't need to worry about it too much because this is where I can fold some of those squads into making
Yes.
either one larger squad I've actually got enough to take a full 12, like another what 12. Geez, yeah, like 11 or 12 man squad with all armed with SMGs still.
Nice.
So plenty,
Yeah.
plenty of SMGs still.
So I'm starting to think about some of the additional officers the other way, where I'm like, look, if I just take an inexperienced or a regular officer on his own for my artillery, I don't care about him having a couple of extra SMG guys. My artillery guy is going to be so far back from the line.
Mm,
He's only giving snap to action orders to the artillery around him, so I can
yeah,
fire them at the same target before it gets to move, for example. Um, then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to give him a pistol because it looks cool, and he'll just stand at the back screaming at people.
Yeah.
And that way, he's only a 30-point tax or something. Um, if that job works for him.
Yeah.
Otherwise, hell yeah, give him 2 men because there's no small teams anymore.
Yeah,
Give
exactly.
all of them SMGs or assault rifles if they're German and get them down there because they can just pop out bit of firepower to just one extra pin from a command team can make all the difference in that next unit's activation roll.
Well, didn't you take a forward air observer in your list for your Germans?
Yes.
So, and you had him kitted out with 2 guys with assault rifles next to him, and you just ran that. You did call the plane in. That's where I got all those pin markers from.
Yes,
that's right, because it had an attack plane come in and do a bombing run right on top of the squad standing in front of the Tiger.
So we had this great situation where I went, all right, well, I'm going to call the strike on this unit, and if you haven't done much, if you haven't played this, the planes get told what unit they're looking for, so the marker moves with the unit effectively. So the unit that was being targeted by my plane, the first turn it didn't turn up yet, so I just left the marker on them, and my observer ran around doing other stuff.
Yeah.
But Mitch ran the unit that had it right out beside my Tiger,
Yep.
so he could assault them the next turn. And I was like, oh wow, if I get one of the results that like pins everybody nearby or something, I could be in trouble. Like my Tiger could get all pinned up by this strafing run. But also I'd paid for a pintle mounted MMG on my Tiger.
Yeah, that's right.
Which
yeah.
I forgot to use the dice for the whole rest of the game.
Oh yeah. Gee, more MMG shots. I missed out.
More pinning. But it was the only flak weapon on either of our forces.
Yeah, because I hadn't taken any.
The only thing that had to roll to see whether it fired at my plane was my own Tiger tank. But I am keen on seeing some more flak units fielded.
Well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think for the Colmar board, for my Colmar Germans, I don't have anything for that. But for my Soviets, they did use. You can take like a pintle mount for the HMGs, which is really interesting. So,
well, I was going to say, there's most of my American forces, like most of them can take or start with a pintle mounted HMG as their defense weapon. So
that is true. Yeah,
the priest has got one on the top. The Wolverine can take one as its defense weapon, and because they're all mounted on the top, they're all pintle mounted as well. So I think I've got one on a half track. I put one on the Sherman. There's one on the Wolverine, and there's one on the priest as well.
So that air observer I've decided to take in my army is not going to have a fun time, right?
I think there's still range to it as well. So because mine might be spread out across the board, and also it means you can make sure you trash those vehicles. Americans do have mostly light open topped vehicles,
and that big Yag Tiger giant cannon is punching holes through one and into the other.
Oh man, he's going to be punching down all campaign. He's just going to be like, kids, I see you turned up to the wrong fight.
I probably should just get some Hetzers because they did have them. So
Hetzers and Stugs. We had a great game. We were still fresh at the end of it. We were really happy to talk about all the stuff that happened. I was just so happy to have got that game in and see what everything did.
Yeah, it actually putting it into practice was quite handy because I managed to read through the rulebook a couple of times, so that way I could actually try and get some of the information down pat, make it easier for me on the day. But even when we were there talking about it, our mate Metten was watching on, and he was kind of picking up on bits and pieces, saying, "Oh, can this do that? Can it do this?" That sort of thing. Yeah. So it seems that one of those things that this version might be a bit easier for people to get into initially because they're not having to, especially for the shooting phase. I think that right there, having that change has made a huge difference to not sitting there going, okay, well then you need to KO this and then take that out, but do this instead. You don't need that in most war games. It creates too much It's too much to try and learn to do in one hit for one phase. If that one particular phase is complicated, I'm not saying it was initially that complicated, because you got used to it after a while once you got into the rhythm of it, but you would still forget about something. It would be like, oh, but I didn't take that into account, or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think ease of use, yeah, definitely. Like this edition feels much more of an easy to use game.
Yes.
So the way you build your platoons, everything like that, it just feels a lot easier.
Dumbed down, which I know is a lot of people's concern. It doesn't feel dumbed down to me. It feels like they just streamlined things that could be done smoother and easier, so that you can focus more on, is my tank in the right place? Do I have enough infantry to take that objective? And you can look at the battlefield in the same way and go, well, I'll take fire off them, but will I still get through? But it just saves a little bit of your processing speed from the old brain CPU to spend on those tactics.
Yep.
Or for me especially, on not forgetting the special rule from this unit, not forgetting the weapon on that unit, not forgetting what Mitch's unit can do, because I'm not spending so much time going, well, 4 pins is -4, so whether I move or not, it's always going to be 6s and 6s. There's just one less thing to do. You just go, if I'm stationary, I hit on 4s. If I moved, I hit on 5s. And most of the time, that's all I had to worry about.
Yeah.
And that felt great.
Probably because I wasn't actually hitting your units with enough stuff, or you were passing the order check and shrugging the pin off. So
I feel like I lost quite a few guys. Were down to like 2 dudes left in their squads.
That's true.
So something that occurred to me recently, and when you were talking about the squad sizes and the dice pools we were using, I constantly take full-sized infantry squads wherever I can.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to look at my lists and go, do I just need to take 2 half-size squads and get more dice? Just to give me the option, because I'm always like 2 to 4 dice below most of my opponents.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at all these big squads that can take heaps of punishment, but they also get down to like the same. All the pins go on the same squad. So I'm like, maybe if I spread it out a bit more. So that's something I'm going to try in some upcoming games, like probably before we even get to the Colmar campaign stuff. I'll just try taking some half-sized German squads or some like 6-man teams here and there. Just spread it out a bit. It gives me a few more units to work with, because most of my armies are like 4 squads of 10 grenadiers, and then all the spicy extra stuff.
It's the old Space Marine tactical squad. You get 10 in a box. You make 10 guys. That's it. That's a squad of 10. It's that kind of thing, right? I mean, I will admit I do like taking large squads, because you do have that survivability. 10-man squads for me is where it's at, I reckon. However, when we do get into how we've been doing the building for the bulge stuff, I have started finding, 8-man veteran squads works better, because it does mean you have not as many points sunk into one unit, but they're a little bit smaller to move around to place on the battlefield. You get a few extra bits and pieces from here. But look, I think definitely squad sizes is something that maybe, is something to look at.
Something to experiment with.
Like, because I ran my Soviet tank hunters. I ran them as 2-man teams, because you got the small team native modifier to hit.
Yeah.
Now there's no more of that. It's like, well, do I just run it as a 4-man team, which I did at the tournament. Even under the old rules, I'm like, it's still a 4-man team. If someone's going to dedicate shooting at that, they're not shooting one of the big squads.
Totally.
So I suppose different horses for different courses.
It's something that I'm going to enjoy taking both ways in different games to see how they feel.
Yeah.
But version 3, very, very happy with our first game.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Nice and easy. Looking forward to playing some more games. I got more tanks to finish building. I've still got some more T-34s. So
I just want to experiment with everything.
Yeah, well, chuck down like 4 T-34s. That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah. Once again, we return to our ongoing story about the summoning of the swell, also known as the building of... Mitch, we're professionals.
Yeah, professional.
Right.
Professional.
The building of the bulge is our special feature where we talk about the themed armies that we're making up around the Colmar Pocket, using the Battle of the Bulge starter sets primarily. We've been doing a lot of work, a lot of hobby on our forces for this.
Yeah, we have. Yep.
I every now and then, Mitch, like almost every night, he's like, "Here's 3 more guys," and it'll be like assault rifles and Panzerfaust and stuff, and I'm like, "This is rad! This is all the stuff that I couldn't fit in my early war Germans, my sort of mid-war, Stalingrad guys." And there's so much cool stuff in there. And it's just, I'm like, wow, that's going to be horrible. That's going to hurt heaps. And also, just there's a mix of cool stuff. I get very bogged down in you got one job, do it right, and that's what my squads are built like.
Yeah.
But there's a really cool, like, sort of Swiss Army knife approach to some of the squads that you've been showing off in our group chat that are like, they've got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, so I managed to finish building my 2 sets of the from the Battle of the Bulge boxes. Also built some extra bits and pieces from the Winter German kits that I grabbed 2 frames of those from War Library.
Love it.
Of Moab, and a bunch of like the special weapons team and bits and pieces. So my force is pretty much all built apart from I need a Schwimmenwagen. I need something to use as my command tank. So like the old meme where the dude slaps the car roof and it says this bad boy can do whatever. It's like it's that. Like I just need a Schwimmenwagen to go through and be like the command vehicle. To at least run around and go through and help sort of do a few bits and pieces. Although I was having a thought, because my Jagdtiger can only be run as regular, because they didn't have veteran crews because they weren't around for long enough. I can actually put the command tank bonus on that, which gives them +1 leadership, makes it leadership 10, which means hopefully, like my KV1, it doesn't back up off the field the first time it takes a pin.
True.
So I've got my force on build. It's like 60 something odd models.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool. So got my stuff done, and you've been getting some paint on your actual miniatures though.
Yeah, did some test runs. One similar to you, I went through and was like, you know what, I'm going to need like an extra 6 guys or similar. And so War Library here in Australia, you can buy individual frames from a lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what, I actually just need one more frame of French infantry to bulk out this unit. And then I went through and did my army listing. I was like, oh, actually, I need one more. So the next time I was ordering stuff, I grabbed another one.
Yeah.
I've actually been using them to order extra frames to use for Frostgrave.
Yeah.
But I've been ordering like Turkish whirling dervish troops and things.
Yeah, this is for the school club that that you run at your school.
So we'll grab those because the bodies are all in like cool robes, and then we just put some wizard hats on and some wands and stuff, and they look perfect. You just get all these different cool historical elements to add in. So our
troops for our silver bayonet, the plastic troops. Not for your one, but for and because yours are made out of metals. For my French troops and my bandits, I just grabbed a couple of frames there that work really well for it. And it's perfect for that.
Exactly. So just really enjoying War Library at the moment. Got some great stuff from them recently. So I'm trying to focus on just my French because I have made 11 game campaign for us to play through that's basically chronological battles. And it starts off with like a 500-point skirmish with just basic infantry stumbling into each other on a patrol before the main French attack. And then it goes through historically all these different things, the pushbacks from each side. And so I'm trying to finish just my French, because if you've got your Germans and I've got my French, then at least I'm ready for the first few games. Then about a third of the way in, the US troops arrive to support from a different angle. And so there's some missions where it'll be like beleaguered French troops on one side and the US coming in from reserve to try to support them and break the German position. And my plan is potentially as we finish the games, but I might put them out before, is actually to publish these on the Inglorious Banters Facebook page in the file section. And then anybody who wants to do similar, even if they want to use their own armies or copy and paste this into a different theater, there'll be like 11 narrative-based missions that they can use these for. And I've shown you sort of the work in progress for where they are.
Yeah.
But a lot of the stuff I was making up all these extra rules for, like minefields and hard conditions and stuff like that. And now, having had time to go through the rule book, easily 60% of the stuff that I wanted to include is actually in the optional rules section.
Easy as.
So I'm just going to take my ones out and put those in, because I would love to have someone else do the rules work for me instead of me being like, I wonder if this will be balanced.
Yeah.
So that's going to be really cool. There's some stuff that I've got to make up myself. Like there's a point where the Germans were holding one side of the river and the US troops had forced their way down a flank to try to cross a wooden bridge.
Yeah.
And they're like, right, we've got to get across here. We're going to see if we can get troops to the other side. So they actually crossed the river, fought their way back on the German side, and took the bridge on the German side of the river.
Yeah.
And then we're like, right, bring the tanks across. And then the bridge collapsed under the weight of the arm they were bringing.
Yeah.
So the American troops were effectively then like cut off because the river's gone, the bridge is gone.
Yeah.
And the follow-up mission to can we get across the bridge? I've specifically got rules in that's like turn 3, the Sherman breaks the bridge.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's going to be fun.
Characterful, right? Yeah.
But the follow-up mission is like the fighting withdrawal / massacre of the such and such infantry regiment.
Yeah.
Because the ground was so frozen, they couldn't dig in and make foxholes to defend themselves. So I've put in a rule that says troops that go down only get like half of the cover save bonuses that they normally would, because there's nowhere to go down. Like
you're literally hitting the deck and hoping the bullets pass over
everything is frozen, and it just means that my troops are going to have to think about falling back to better positions instead of going down in the open. It will just be death. So loads of that stuff is actually getting me really pumped up. I'm thinking about objectives and different terrain pieces that we need, and that's been very inspirational for me.
We've had the sort of back and forth about the force build-ups over the last month or so. Being on top of the forces and having them good and ready to go, it gives us an immediate starting point. Yeah, forces, yours will probably be pain because it takes me forever to do anything, but having these forces ready to go so we can actually start playing with them, and then, as we build up over time, building more terrain, getting the forces fully painted, everything like that, it'll be really quite nice to do more of that sort of side of it. I think obviously in the new year when we I finish up the 365 challenge, if I can get to finishing it, unlike you and Andrew have already completed it. My focus then, as I mentioned previously, is sort of looking at terrain building to get some tables ready to go. Because I've got plenty of tables worth of terrain sitting in boxes, built but not painted. So being able to go through and work on some of that will also help out. The campaign structure that you've designed is really quite cool. I actually picked up the Battle of the Bulge campaign book while we were up at Moab. It was in like the $10 books thing at one of the stores, and I went, oh, I'll have a quick flick through it. I went, oh, there's a Colmar Pocket mission. Cool. All right, done. I'll buy that. I don't need the, regardless of whatever else is in the book. I know the rules aren't current anymore, but the artwork, the missions, you can kind of use the missions already out there, or hell, still play the mission anyway. All those old campaign books are still good for that kind of thing. You will just find that you'll have certain parts of the objectives will be that little bit different because of the way things work now as far as capturing or something like that. And being able to go through and utilize any of the new mission formats, really quite handy. Like, I think the new missions leading into something that we're doing here, being able to utilize the objective updates, things like the rules for like mud, snow, hard, that kind of thing. Really easy for us to go through and start getting these games in to make it more about the actual theme. And it'll be cool to go through and do I don't know, we'll have to have a discussion about it, putting up photos of what we're actually doing the mission, maybe going through and having some overlays of the tables set up and
we'd love
that kind of stuff. It'd be cool to do.
Yeah, and play if it's the kind of thing that you're interested in, even just seeing what we're doing. We'll be putting it on our Instagram. There's the Inglorious Banters Facebook page is very much in its infancy, but we'll try to keep like posting stuff up there as well. But let us know if you follow us on Podbean or any of the podcast networks that we're on. Leave us a comment if you feel like it, just so we know what you guys want to hear more of. Because we're just talking about what we like in the hobby, and we hope you're here for the ride. But let us know so that we can get more of what you are looking for as listeners, because we want to give to the community in that way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. The good thing about the list building with the way we're working on it, which will lead into the next topic we'll have a bit of a talk about. Being able to play specific missions based on what's physically there at the time is great, but you do find it to be really restrictive. For example, like we were discussing in the last podcast, there was, anti-tank artillery there in Colmar, but they didn't have a lot of artillery shells for it. So they had a lot more man-packed weaponry was more what was available. So Panzerfaust, Panzerschrecks, that kind of thing. They had more available for that than they did actual shells for the heavy guns. So it's one of those things that building my list up, I'm still going for an infantry heavy force over something that would utilise those extra things, like you're an actual artillery platoon.
Yeah,
but placing artificial restrictions on your army can be a good and a bad thing. So it's especially to a theme. If you're working to a theme that is so restrictive to the point where you look at your army and go, I am not going to have fun playing that.
Yeah.
Is that theme worth it?
It's tricky, isn't it? Because there's, if the experience you get from that one mission, say, is that you're like, I want to play this mission on hard mode. I'm going to be the defender who is outnumbered, outgunned. My troops are exhausted. Can I still hold off long enough for this to be classed as a victory?
Yeah,
that is a whole gaming experience in its own.
Yeah,
but very often you would want that to be for one mission and not your entire list.
Yeah, and a theme, especially for like my Soviet list, the Rattenkrieg list. It was really restrictive in what I took. Do I love the Force? Yeah, I love the Force. I love playing it, but it is really restrictive. So when you do come up against something that has a lot of armor, you kind of like, oof, I'm gonna have it's an uphill struggle. So you're aiming for a draw in most cases, unless you get real lucky with the mission objective or something like that. Yeah, it really does depend on sort of what you're playing with it. So tailoring your forces to particular scenarios, it can work. But if you're going to something, say, like a tournament, or you're making an army and you're going, I am just buying this is all I can, whether it's an affordability or it's a space restriction, how much space you have to store your stuff, or just how much time you have to put into it. If you go through and you go, that's my force, that's how I want to build it, that's it, nothing else, you will find it harder to play certain missions to do things. And I think everybody has come across that at some point during their gaming lifetime, regardless of what game you've played.
And as long as you're aware of it and that's a journey that you're willing to take, then it's great. Both of our forces were themed around sort of mid-war Stalingrad kind of stuff, which put... For my German army, it didn't have as many restrictions. It just kind of meant I couldn't take high-end end-of-war gear. But for your particular street fighting style, it meant that there was no armor. There was no heavy artillery that had to be lugged into position that wouldn't work in between city tower blocks.
True. Well, this is interesting, right? Some of the books, there's a local Lifeline book fair. So for people that listen from overseas, which it's great if you listen high from Australia. It's one of those things that here in Australia we have Lifeline, which helps people with if they need to have a chat to anybody about anything, mental health stuff, that kind of thing. They do a book fair every year that's pretty big in this local area for us. And I went down there and I had to dig through the military history section, and I found a ton of really cool stuff. I brought them to the game day, had a look through, and one of them actually shows KV-1 rolling out of the factory ready to fight kind of thing, which really worked well to theme it then my army for my for the force we played with. But speaking of the artillery, artillery, it did show in one section of the book, and I made sure I pointed this out to you. It was only, I think, a 37 millimeter, like a light anti-tank gun, but it was poking out of a basement with like a gap that was only about maybe like 4 or 5 feet across, to have this field arc of fire that was so small. But at one point on a building, you could hold a crossroad with that.
Just amazing, and highly recommend, especially for theming stuff. Go and grab some books, grab anything with pictures in it. But they give you so much inspiration for things you can do, for conversions, for tailoring and personalizing your army. Mitch showed me in this book, he was like, you need to see this, because there were Allied tanks that had snow camouflage sheeting, and the sheeting that had been provided by local families had donated it. And they were like actual sheets.
Like lace tablecloths and everything.
Donating bedding to the soldiers, who were then like tagging it down on top of half tracks and priests and stuff as snow camouflage to keep it safe from airstrikes and stuff. And some of them were like actual crocheted by hand tablecloths and things with like the frilly edges over the top of, like, there's one over the front of a half track and one over the troop capacity.
It's like going to your nan's place and taking every doily from every surface that she's got stuff on, stitching it together and throwing it over the top of your vehicle.
It's just amazing.
It looked really quite cool. And like I said, like I did say, you got to see this. This is so cool. You can do it for your vehicles.
Which is great, because I've been looking at some of my vehicles going, I really want these to be usable for my French and for my Americans. So I'm just going to mark them up with like the Allied star, but not put flags on them. Now I can put doilies on them. I didn't want to put the crew in the Wolverine because I didn't want you to be able to tell who was piloting it. I'm gonna put bedsheet over the top of my turret.
Why not? It fits, and
like smear some white paint on the other bits and just make it look like they're doing their best to be snow camouflage.
Exactly.
There is so much fun to be had in finding all these little snippets from history. Like there are loads of named vehicles and sort of heroes and villains and everything in between in these battles that can be amazing to add into a game. In a standard game of bolt action, there is a focus on things being balanced so everyone knows what to expect. I can piss off Mitch because we're friends. He can sneak stuff by me because we're friends. We won't get upset with each other and lose a friendship because it's not a tournament. We're not going to turn up and suddenly like destroy each other and crack it and leave.
Exactly.
So because we've got that, we can do things like just play narrative games and do the same thing with your friends. You don't have to worry about making them upset. If everyone turns up knowing it's a narrative game, then you can have things like unfair conditions on one side. You can have advantages that are sort of balanced out, but never really completely done. There was something I really wanted to get to, and I can't remember it now. But there's loads of these things that will just turn up in a narrative mission that you could not put in a normal game at all. But if you put them in one of these, they'll be great.
Exactly.
I just remember what it was. There was a US officer called Audie Murphy who was trying to hold out against a German push as long as he could. And they were being completely overrun. It was in like basically just a massive flat area of like a valley from memory. Lots of forests and stuff there and some farmland. But he finishes off by sending most of the rest of his troops off behind him to fall back, grabbing a radio, climbing into the turret of a downed M10
I think
Wolverine,
I did read about this as well,
and then calling in an airstrike on himself to take out the rest of the Germans that had approached and like surrounded his position. So I put that in into the rules that one of the officers in the US force can secretly be Audie Murphy, and he can call in an airstrike that automatically hits himself, but you never know which officer it's going to be. And then we might put in a bonus that if he's within range of the Wolverine wreck in the middle of the field, that there's a bonus to calling in the strike or something to how soon it arrives. That's stuff that is amazingly characterful.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not fair or balanced,
No.
but
Well, if he eats a sniper round, it's not going to make too much of a difference, is he?
such a bad choice. But that means Mitch might actually take the bait, so to speak, and spend a lot of time focusing on
That's true.
getting rid of my officers instead of getting rid of the troops that are suppressing his advance.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's where those things become fair because one advantage puts pressure on somebody else to negate that advantage.
Yeah. I think asymmetrical play is something that's been around in a lot of games for a lot of years. You remember the siege battles, like Warhammer Fantasy siege battles. You would have the defenders sitting back and go, cool, I've got cannons, I've got walls, I've got pour boiling oil down, that kind of thing. It didn't seem fair. But the thing is, it kind of still balanced out overall.
And there was a points imbalance. I think it was an extra 50% on the attacker's side.
Yeah, to represent. Well, I mean, you're going to need the troops to get across the field because he's getting shot at by everything.
That's it.
And I mean, you don't really have it, but with some games, you'll have that asymmetrical play style will be the whole point of the game.
Yes.
It's not going to be an easy game. It's going to be a bit of an uphill struggle. I don't know. I haven't played any solo play games to really sort of see if that's sort of the same thing where you have like the deck going against you. But we have played some Fallout where we had, because that includes a deck mechanic where the NPCs roaming around will go through and actually attack. So like we played that game where we were playing against the super mutants. And that went through, and you had the super mutants were taking like the hounds were just so fast and run up and eat you.
Yeah,
like but it made it that little bit different to play. You guys would just run around beating the crap out of everything. It was you did actually have that, and I think with something like with Bolt Action, there's an inherent amount of balance built into it. The missions will, like whoever plays attacker or defender will sort of make the difference to it. But as far as theming armies are concerned, like picking, like we've discussed a bit before on here, picking an area to fight in and go, well, what forces were available? Are these forces we want to play with? Yeah, cool. All right, there we go. You want to pick off and split sides.
Yeah.
Like you've been talking about our mate Andrew, his favourite sort of, his American army is going to be more based around the assault on Carentan. So you immediately went, well, cool, I can build a German army for this. So you've got some buildings on the go to go with the Normandy board you've already built. So there are things where you might already have things put in place anyway.
Yeah.
That as far as theming an army, you might go, well, yeah, I do have a whole German army, but it doesn't look the same. And a German army in 44 in Normandy is going to look completely different to a German army from 41, 42 in the snow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And theming is very often increases your style by restricting things. So neither of our armies for Colmar, from what I've seen from the troops that were there, it would be unfeasible for either of us to field recce platoons.
Yeah,
they're
not
just
really.
not really there, unless there's a specific mission that's like ambush the supply train or something.
Yeah.
Right? And then you go, okay, well, a recce platoon would work really well there. But most of the troops that were there were not fast-moving patrols. They were there was lots of massed infantry, lots of tank companies, and lots of dug-in emplacements, which is where your heavy weapons and
your artillery and that kind of.
It would be very feasible for us to add engineer units and platoons to those to represent squads that were reinforcing locations or tasked with demolishing locations to get in.
Very much so.
Right, all of that would make sense. Bridge demolition teams. You could easily just have a themed scenario where the Germans have one engineer unit whose job it is to set charges on the bridge so that they can destroy it before the troops come across.
Yeah,
all those kind of things. Just that whole thing about theming. I know we talked about this before we started recording, but I had this kind of epiphany in my head the other day where I was like, sometimes adding a theme doesn't give you a tactical advantage, but it gives you an enjoyment advantage to your game. Like your Rattenkrieg troops.
Yeah.
In the right scenarios, great tactical options because they're small, they can get everywhere. But if you put them on the fields of Normandy, it's a tricky matchup for them because they're not designed for that.
Yeah.
So the benefit that they give you may not be tactical or firepower, but it is in the enjoyment that you get from the game.
Exactly, yeah.
And sometimes we pay a cost in points or a point cost in flexibility to have that thing.
Yeah.
But it is so rewarding. And that's what I'm really excited about for the Colmar Pocket.
Yeah, so as I've been building my troops, like trying to stick to the theme based on the Flames of War information, that sort of thing, it's one of those things that I've gone for my veteran mountain troops. Like that's what was there. Everything's designed around that. I've taken pretty much most stuff as veterans. The Volksgrenadier inexperienced squads I've taken a second rifle platoon for that reason to go, cool. The officer would be regular because he would be slightly more experienced, or like they had some troops from older divisions that were around that had basically been decimated or had sort of been transferred in to help watch over the younger recruits.
Yeah.
But the two basic 5-man squads that I've got with the assault rifles, they're just designed to be fire bases. Yeah, they're inexperienced with assault rifles. That's what Volksgrenadier were. Like they didn't have as much of the combat training. Didn't have the experience that mountain troops who have fought in in Norway through through the Alps, all that kind of stuff. Like they're not going to have that kind of same experience. Totally. Even as far as like the heavy weapons platoon, I'm like, well, they would all still be, veteran Govisier. Like they'd still have the advantage of the new edition rules when obviously they come out. So
that'll be good.
Well, see, that's the everybody getting the move through cover like it for the Fieldcraft rule. It's just great.
So on that, I think it's due January.
January, I think, is when it's.
Yeah. I demand that we use all those rules every game from this point on, basically. Yeah. If we've read it, I just want us to use it because they're just way too cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't have artillery, like I said, for the reason that they didn't really have a lot of ammunition for the actual guns. But if I wanted to say I wanted to still use it as a force like that, I've taken a couple of squads with SMGs in it. So I've got two sort of big blocker squads of with assault rifles, 3 assault rifles, and an LMG in it. Along with a couple of Panzerfaust, because let's face it, they've been armed to the teeth because they knew they were having American tanks come rolling through, so they're going to be ready to go. I've got 2 smaller squads, one done up as a scouting force, so they've all got the little field caps. They've all got backpacks which have come from some frames of the Winter Germans. So they've all got that. I got one there. He's got the Panzerfaust sort of strapped side to the side of it. A few little bits and pieces like that have made a big difference to what I can take, and even just going, well, my officers are just going to have a couple of special weapons. Like, you're not just taking rifles; they're taking SMGs or assault rifles. It does give me that little extra bit of firepower just to throw out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have basically gone late war theme, but not like everyone's got an assault rifle that can have an assault rifle, because there still would have been guys that would have been like, "This is my MP40. I've been carrying it since since the first year of the war. It's served me well. I'm not getting rid of it for anything." Kind of thing.
Lucky Grunhilde is not leaving my side. And that's what I think both of us are really looking forward to, is how these stories play out as we go through and test out these different forces.
Yeah. Yeah, and with theming overall, I think it's down to what you're wanting to play with versus also what you can afford. Because if you think about how much it costs for certain games to purchase the miniatures, you want to go into a certain theme, you could be dropping $2,000 on an army, like quite easily in some cases, for something that you go, that's what I want to play, and you get it, and you go, sweet, and you go, I've done that. Now, I'll play with it for however many, months or whatever it might be until it sort of rolls around. With some game, flexibility in your options is always good, but if you got that theme and you really want to go for it, go for it. But you will find it'll still be that restrictive and this I think will be regardless of whatever game system you end up playing. I think you kind of back yourself into a corner a bit too much if you've gone through and you've taken a theme that is super restrictive. Because, but if you want to play that particular battle, that particular time frame in history, whatever it might be, or whatever it is, like the old world, not old world stuff. There's a lot of flexibility in there, but you can also take one of like the dwarven holds or something like that, and you go, "Well, I'm going to take that," and it's like you can have this and this, but not that. And oh, I kind of really wanted that.
Yeah.
So my Age of Sigmar the Caradron Overlord army was a bit like that. I'm like, I could take all this stuff. I'm like, yeah, you could, but you don't get the benefit on that unit. I'm like, well, why would I take that unit then?
Yeah.
So
that's it. Like if your theme comes with restrictions, just be, that's your bed you're going to lie in. But think about it ahead of time. Like, I know after all of the theme games that we played with our Stalingrad forces, I was really ready to go, man, the restrictions have been characterful and they've guided us, but now I really want to put a Panzerschreck on the board. He's been in my collection for 3 years. I used him once and then realized he was illegal for our timeline. Or different tanks that I've got that don't fit the theme. I'm just like, I'd love to take a break from the theme for a minute and just field some cool stuff for craziness, which is why we had the KV-1 and the T-34 in. We both wanted to use some extra vehicles. Using engineer platoons or recce platoons, like breaking from your theme to have a breather and trying out new stuff is pretty cool. And I think both of us are trying some new stuff in these lists.
Like, I think with my Germans, like, I don't take LMGs in my Soviet squads. I do have LMGs for my Soviet squads for the rifle squads I've got, but I've never really used them. Mainly because they were quite points heavy to take in second edition.
No, you can always afford more Russians.
Yeah, I could for that price I could fit in 2 guys. So why would I take just one submachine gun?
More bodies than bullets.
And lose a guy for the loader as well. Like, it made more sense to just have more bodies on the field. But with a much more elite force, it does chew up the points a lot more, which is something that also comes into your theme. Are you theming it? And then when you get it on the tabletop at the points level of the game, and you go, wow, I've got like a third of what everybody else has got.
True. But those veterans are hard to kill.
They are hard. They're very hard to shift out of cover these days.
I mean, I guess that's what we'll find out, right?
Yeah.
We're going to shoot at a lot of people and see what happens.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to playing it with our theme forces. But theme will always be something for me. I'll generally try to pick theme over just taking what's efficient, because that's just the type of play style I will admit I have played what is efficient, but that was before I got much more of a long beard. Sure. I think so. When I was a beardling, there was a lot more about what I had and what was efficient.
Yeah.
But now that I'm an old long beard grumbling away, ignoring my panic checks from the, it's one of those things I don't really sort of think about the honed edge of gaming as much as I'm like, this is cool, I want to take that, that's fun.
And that's it. Look, and as we've said before, this is our slice of the cake and our cup of tea. We're not yucking anyone's yum. If you are the honed edge of competitive gaming or just like decisive list building, you don't have to be competitive. If that's your thing and that's what really gets you up in the morning, you're like, man, I bet you I can make a list that's got more HE than you could poke a stick at. Great. Try that. Do that if that's your thing. For us, we've done a lot of that stuff, and now the things that we're looking at are usually, how can we tell a story where this cool stuff happens? And that's what we want to find.
Yeah, so we'll have more coming up on that over the next couple of podcasts. So we'll go through and we'll start releasing a bit more information about the campaigns that Tim's been running up the missions for. So definitely keep up with our socials. So Tim's at Hyperfocus Hobbies, and I'm at Beer Batter Brush. And yeah, definitely check out the Facebook page. Give us a comment on any of the podcast apps as well. So it's always good to know. So it's always nice to hear people if they like the show. If you've got anything you think we can improve on, hopefully the pickup quality is better this time round.
Right, I'm going to throw all our mics in the bin. Anyway, thank you all for listening in again. We hope to see you again next time.
All right, catch you guys.